free speech, not free reach. Can you walk us through that concept?
Yeah, and that's not mine. I'll put my hand up that. So there's a couple people that have used that expression, including a Facebook engineer who wrote a great opinion piece in the New York Times about how to fix that. And yeah, I think so. Free speech, I think everybody can and should support in in a Western society. But I think what we've kind of based ourselves on for the last long time is that more speech means better speech. And I think these platforms are really testing that proposition in a way that hasn't been tested before, because a lot of people talk a lot of rubbish. And so that doesn't scale. And as ever, I think that's, if you want a framework of why things don't work, the scale and pace of these platforms is unlike any communication environment we've had in modern history. And so what these platforms do is take that nugget of speech and can give it a reach far beyond what a traditional paper would have. So first, to get in the old school newspaper, you would have to have a credential, some sort of cogent argument. You'd have to convince an editor that, look, I know what I'm talking about. Here's what I think about this. And then they would lend you their reach. Contrast that to now, where you don't have to talk to anyone. You can say whatever you want. And then if the algorithm finds that you're getting an instant response to that. So we're now trading on derivatives of information. So it's not what did I say? It's how did people feel about what I say? And that's mostly how the algorithm then takes a decision to take what you're saying and spread it to what could be millions of people. And that's the trigger, I think. I'm all for people saying whatever they want. But the second, and just like an old school publisher took a decision, I will lend my platform to your voice, you assumed a liability in the publishing world of, if I publish something that then gets somebody, I'm liable for that. Whereas the platforms just blender it up, send it out there, and then absolve themselves of the duty. They just wipe their hands and go, largely because of legislation that was passed in the 1990s in the States, Section 230D, which was meant to protect the then nascent internet. Now they blast these things around. And I think that's got to be the trigger point. Platforms should encourage people to express themselves and say what they want. But the second the platforms take a decision to boost that content, they should be liable. And they go, oh, I can't do that. We couldn't do that. That in itself is a form of speech, but it's not run by any human process. Like, there's no accountability in the system. And you could easily have a social media environment where you couldn't retweet stuff, you couldn't like stuff, you couldn't give the algorithm these hooks to then make a decision about where do I share this. And you wouldn't be impinging on anybody's speech, but you would be limiting the reach that these platforms give. And I think that alone would change a lot of the dynamic. We now know we respond, and to your point earlier, we say punchy things because we get a little dopamine reward of what people thought about us. And we all do this, right? Yeah. We all write that tweet and we go, oh, that was clever. Let's watch how this one does, and we're like that as human beings, right? We all look for validation in whatever form we can get. And these buttons, like buttons and retweets, are validation. And I know, like, I've just written something about Mark Carney that will appear tomorrow. I could give that a headline on social media that would make that thing sing a lot more than, to Andrew's point, what the copy actually says. And you can A/B test this to your heart's content. Welcome to the joys of these platforms. And we all know, if like I write, Mark Carney's the worst prime minister ever, here's why, it'll do better than a more reasoned take about Carney, trying to run a government like he ran the bank, which he just can't do. People go, yeah, and we all know that, right? Or I think this politician did a reasonable thing, like, and that can be a valid news story, like government solves problem. That doesn't sing online.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that with free speech, obviously we're all supporters of free speech, but free speech isn't free speech if it's promoting something that's just an untruth.